Good evening. You're now watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Vincent Chan, and here's a look at tonight's top stories. Hong Kong's first monkeypox patient is believed to have contracted the disease in the United States. John Lee stays tight-lipped on scrapping hotel quarantine. And the death toll in an earthquake in Sichuan rises as rescue efforts are stepped up. Hong Kong's first imported case of monkeypox is in stable condition in hospital after flying into the city yesterday. Health officials believe he contracted the disease in the United States. Joanna Ho reports.
Health officials confirmed that a 30-year-old Hong Kong resident who returned from the Philippines on flight PR300 yesterday is infected with monkeypox. The man felt unwell during quarantine in the Ramada Hong Kong Harbour View Hotel in Sai Ying Pun and was sent to Queen Mary Hospital, where he is in stable condition. He developed rashes and swollen lymph nodes last week and a sore throat yesterday. Monkeypox positive samples were found in blisters on his skin this morning. The man had lived in the United States and stayed in Canada and the Philippines before returning to Hong Kong. He is suspected to have contracted the disease outside Hong Kong.
We noted there some high-risk exposure during his visit in one of the countries.
Based on the date of onset of symptoms, incubation period, and high-risk activity, we suspect that the patient might have acquired the infection during his stay in the United States.
Chuang, however, refused to disclose the high-risk activities, only saying most who contract monkeypox are men who have sex with other men, according to the World Health Organization. People who were on flight PR300 as well as airport and quarantine hotel staff were advised to pay attention to their health. Cho said Hong Kong has already purchased monkeypox vaccines and they are expected to arrive this month. He said inoculation will only target close contacts and high-risk groups such as medical staff. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Nearly a quarter of imported COVID infections today were detected only after they had entered the community. Of the 186 cases, 142 were screened at the airport and quarantine facilities, but 44 were found from the fourth day of arrival onwards, when they can work and take public transport. Meanwhile, overall infections dropped to a one-week low of 9,373. They included seven cardiologists at Eastern Hospital. They did not socialize but had shared the same pantry. There were also 9 COVID-related deaths, while 109 patients are in critical or serious condition. The National Day fireworks display has been scrapped for the 4th consecutive year. The government cited the pandemic for the cancellation. COVID forced the event to be dropped in the past 3 years. In 2019, it was cancelled because of the social unrest. Chief Executive John Lee remains tight-lipped on whether Hong Kong will adopt a 0+7 quarantine system before the city hosts 2 major international events in November. He also called for patience as Hong Kong and the mainland discuss a reverse quarantine scheme. Joanna Ho reports.
Chief Executive John Lee met the media before the Executive Council reconvened after its summer recess. But he did not say whether hotel quarantine for arrivals will be relaxed further. Bloomberg reported earlier that Hong Kong's leader is leaning towards easing the curbs before 2 key events in November, a global banker summit and the Rugby Sevens tournament. Lee, however, gave a cautious statement.
In regard to what we will do in future months, as regard the number of quarantine days, we will have to assess it based on the number of infected cases and how the transmission will be happening. We will have to make assessment, and when we make the assessment and come to this conclusion, of course, we'll make an announcement.
Asked whether there are divisions in government on when to end hotel quarantine, Lee said his team is united and decisions will be unanimous. The chief executive meanwhile said the SAR and the mainland are still discussing details of the proposed reverse quarantine scheme. He said the government will raise certain issues such as the standard of PCR test and manpower deployment with mainland authorities. Lee hopes people will understand that it takes time to scrutinize the proposal, saying it is a brand new concept for authorities on both sides. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
John Lee, meanwhile, issued a warning after a doctor was arrested for allegedly issuing vaccination exemption certificates without examining patients properly. Annie Choi, aged 64, was accused of giving out 6,000 certificates at her Yuen Long clinic last month. Each certificate cost $500 and was valid for 90 days. Lee warned that using and issuing false documents are serious offenses that could land violators behind bars for a maximum of 14 years. He added that cases of suspected professional misconduct will be referred to the medical council for follow-up action. Police believe the weapon used in a $13 million watch shop robbery in Causeway Bay last week was in fact an air gun. That's after an air gun was found inside the suspected getaway car abandoned near Shingmun Reservoir. The gun was loaded with steel beads, but its exact power has to be determined. A hiker alerted police this morning after spotting the suspicious vehicle by the roadside, with the key still in the ignition. A set of bogus car plates as well as tools and gloves were also recovered. 4 jobless men arrested yesterday have been charged with robbery. They will remain in custody until November. The death toll in the earthquake that jolted Sichuan yesterday has risen to at least 65. Local authorities issued the highest emergency alert as landslides and aftershocks hampered rescue and relief operations. Chloe Feng reports.
The 6.8 magnitude earthquake, which rocked the southwestern province of Sichuan yesterday, left behind damaged roads and collapsed buildings. But it's a human casualty toll that is distressing. At least 65 people were killed and 250 injured. Rescuers have stepped up efforts to find 12 people still missing. The quake's epicenter was in Moshi town, about 300 kilometers from the provincial capital Chengdu. The Glacier Forest Park in Moshi is a tourist attraction, and hotel workers were among the fatalities. Water, electricity, and telecommunications were cut off at one point, affecting up to 43,000 households. Over 50,000 people have been relocated, as over 6,500 rescuers and doctors were sent to the stricken area. Heavy rain and landslides are hindering rescue efforts. Over 1,000 people were reportedly trapped after a newly formed burial lake blocked roads. About 100 residents living downstream were successfully rescued. Rescuers are battling against time as the Weather Bureau forecast a rainstorm along with more landslides, while temperatures drop to 12 degrees Celsius. The quake comes amid fresh COVID lockdowns in Sichuan and follows power shortages triggered by severe droughts. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
Typhoon warnings have been lifted across most of South Korea as a powerful storm headed out to sea after claiming at least 2 lives with 10 people missing. Typhoon Henonor caused huge waves as it lashed the south of the country. The storm dumped almost 1 meter of rain, triggering floods in many areas. Power lines collapsed, leaving more than 20,000 homes without electricity. Many roads were destroyed and thousands of flights cancelled. The storm is now in the open sea and is expected to skirt the Japanese island of Hokkaido. Outgoing British Prime Minister Boris Johnson makes some final remarks at Downing Street. He is replaced by Liz Truss, who beat Rishi Sunak in a vote by Conservative Party members.
And the torch will finally be passed to a new Conservative leader. I am now like one of those booster rockets that has fulfilled its function, and I will now be gently re-entering the atmosphere and splashing down invisibly in some remote and obscure corner of the Pacific. And like Cincinnatus, I am returning to my plough, and I will be offering this government nothing but the most fervent support.
Johnson and Truss flew to the Queen's estate in Scotland to formally offer his resignation and make way for Truss. He announced his intent to leave 2 months ago following several political scandals. His departure comes as Britain faces an economic crisis and energy uncertainties from tensions with Russia. One of the suspects in Canada's stabbing rampage has been found dead, while his brother is still at large. Police in Saskatchewan province say the injuries on Damien Sanderson's body do not appear to be self-inflicted.
Miles Sanderson, Damien's brother, may have sustained injuries. This has not been confirmed. But we do want the public to know this because there is a possibility he may seek medical attention. Even if he is injured, it does not mean he is not still dangerous. We consider him armed and dangerous. Do not approach him.
Canadians were shocked yesterday after 10 people were killed and 18 injured in a stabbing spree. The attacks were spread across 13 places in an indigenous reserve and a nearby village. The Sanderson brothers were charged with several counts of murder and attempted murder. Australia's central bank has raised its key interest rate for the 5th month in a row, taking it to the highest level in 7 years.
That Australians will have to make more hard decisions about how to make ends meet. And it also means more difficult decisions for governments, because higher interest rates mean a higher cost of servicing the $1 trillion of debt that has been left to us.
The Reserve Bank of Australia boosted its benchmark cash rate by half a percentage point to 2.35% as it underscored its determination to lower inflation. The rising rate trend has angered ordinary Australians who are also worried that companies may cut jobs to save costs. But the central bank did not rule out further hikes to tackle inflation, which is at a 21-year high of 6.1%. Now let's take a look at the market. The Hang Seng Index closed down 22 points. The top 10 active stocks: Tencent down $4.80, Tracker Fund up 1 cent, Alibaba down 45 cents. Meituan down 20 cents, and BYD up $5.80. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollars, the euro is at 7.79, and the British pound is at 9.09. The London FTSE is up 16 points. Onto the weather now. Don't leave home without your umbrella tomorrow. There will be occasional showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures will range between 26 and 30 degrees. More of the same on Thursday before the sun peeps out on Friday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news on Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Vincent Chan. Thanks for watching. Good night.